Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5. And we are going take my advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K-words on this show, no Kanye talk, formerly or now. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So we have topics and guests. We have Dee Wallace coming up, the mom from E.T. and Cujo, Rich Little, one of the first impressionists who grew up in the days and hung out with Frank Sinatra, Jerry Lewis, all of that. We have that interview coming up. And then all of my past 1,106 podcast shows. I think I was doing podcasts before they called them podcasts, as well as special series. And today is Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
your co-host, James Hawthorne.
It's so wonderful to have you back in studio. He is my Thursday, not throwback, but real live, in-person, Thursday Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa. He's an actor. He's a trainer. He's a film festival founder. He's single. He's cute, sexy. And let's see, anything else I want to say? No, we'll leave it for a little bit later. But so glad to have you back.
Great to be back.
Good morning, all. Uh-oh. You froze. Oh, there you are.
How about now?
Yeah, now it's good. Say that again.
It's great to be back.
Well, it's great to have you. And we're going to launch right into our breakfast sandwich. Taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich is how we start the show, so that you can sandwich your day in the most positive way. And I'm just filling out your headline, your co-host of Straight Talk. I'm going to have to get you to do that.
Yeah, you've got so many shows. You're right. I do
there
need to
we
specify
go.
that.
Yeah. But we start with 8 things that we're grateful for that is outside of ourselves. So, James, kick it off. Let's do this.
I'm grateful for my proximity to great hikes. I live in North Hollywood, so while it ain't Beverly Hills, I'm only like 10 minutes away from Griffith Park, from the beautiful Wildwood Canyon hike, and I did that yesterday, and it was wonderful. So I'm grateful for that. The simple pleasures in life, like a great hike out in nature.
I'm allergic to hiking and camping, so I'll let you enjoy that. I'm grateful that I have other things that I love to do in nature, like racing sailboats, and that season starts up in let's see, at the end of April, so not too far away.
Skipper, yeah. I volunteer to be your Gilligan.
You want to be Gilligan?
Yeah. Bring me out there. I love sailing. I love getting out on the water. I'll be your Gilligan.
There you go. And I'm grateful. I'll just jump in with the second one, which is I got to meet Gilligan's son. Wow. So, yeah, I went to the horse races with him and my good friend who's now in heaven, Marianne from Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells. And she went COVID complications at the beginning of COVID. But I just love my extended intro that plays when the news is playing on the other side. Every time I, see her, I get to, just honor and be grateful that I got to have such a beautiful relationship with her, and got to meet like super cool people because of her. Yeah, I learned how to play poker from her, actually.
Wow.
Oh, she was wonderful. She loved to have a good time. So
That's
my
good.
my good time partner. I need a new good time partner. All right.
It's always good
What
to
else are
have
you
one on
grateful
call,
for?
or a few on call, that's for sure.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I'm grateful. Hey, I'm gonna supplant one of my gratefuls with that. I'm lucky to have a few people I can call, and if I'm ready to go out and have a good time, I got a few people that are usually up for the task, and I'm grateful to have those people in my phone that are ready to say yes to adventure.
That's awesome. I am grateful for that thing that you are drinking right now. Here we go. Let's cheers.
Yes,
I
kitty
am
cat.
so aw. I'm so this is what Alana and I do. You gotta go move towards the middle and no the other way. Yeah. Clink in the
Clink.
middle. There we go.
There it is.
I'm,
You're right, my
I'm
left. The
grateful.
mirror effect.
Yeah, exactly. And we have eyeballs rolling in. I'm so grateful to have the streaming capabilities on Facebook, LinkedIn, and my TV Central, YouTube. And we just got a finger for that. Someone just gave us a finger, which is not that one, but this one. So thank you for that. Please do introduce yourself and play along as we take a bite of my gratitude sandwich. I think we're at like 5, so I'll do. I'm grateful for. I get to go play mahjong today. I finished my work. I have more work tomorrow, but I finished a chunk of stuff that I am rewarding myself with a tournament of mahjong today.
I feel like mahjong is like an underground sensation. Two of my personal training clients are regular mahjong players, and I'm like, what is it? And they play every week. They never miss a week. They're in a
Ask
group.
them what style. Ask them what style. Hong Kong, Taiwan, or American. There's three. There's like 8 different styles.
Different
But those
varieties.
are
I
the.
have to ask them. I have to ask
Yeah,
them which for. I'm going to come back to you next week with
they'll be
answers.
impressed. They'll be impressed. And final gratitude. I'm grateful for living on the ocean of abundance. I'm so grateful that I just look out here. Oh, I shouldn't do this with my bad back, but see if you can't catch that. There's the ocean.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love watching
Yeah.
surfers do their thing, and it just about gives me the motivation to go and rent a board, buy a board, and go do it.
There's free paddle boards here. So if you come
Oh,
down and visit, you can go paddle boarding with me.
I don't know if you
How's
need
that?
a first mate for a paddle board, but I'll be your Gilligan for that too.
It's a deal. Now we're going to the bottom of the bun, which is what do you like about yourself? Now, we do that because it's my BS, my belief system, that good mental health starts with a foundation of you liking yourself. Not all the time, we're not perfect, but 88% of the time, what do you like about yourself? Because from that place, we can care for ourselves, not looking for love in all the wrong places. We can soothe ourselves and we don't do knee jerk reactions, which means you're being a jerk usually when you do a knee jerk. So that's why I am helping you weight lift training. Before you go to bed, think of 8 things that you like about yourself instead of, oh, I didn't do this, or I forgot to do that, or I didn't do that well, or who's doing me wrong, all of that BS. All right? So, what do you like about yourself, James?
My creativity. My roommate is creating, who you met at the end of last week, is creating a really awesome clown show that we're getting ready. And it's not exactly what you would think, like circus clowns. Not like that. It's more in the theater sense, and we are bouncing ideas off of it. And he's going to have me be an integral part of it. So in a way, we're sort of co-creating it, and we spitball off these ideas back and forth, and it's just such lively brainstorm sessions, and we're just like thrilled to put this thing together and hopefully put it up for the Fringe Festival, which is just an exciting time in Hollywood where all these creatives are putting up shows, and it's just a great opportunity to put your stuff out there in front of an audience. And I'm surprising myself with some of my creative ideas, and that I can keep pace with the creative clown that I live with. So I'm not grateful for that, but yes, I'm grateful for that, and I like that about myself, I suppose.
Yeah, you're appreciative for your creativity, and I will ditto that. I had a really good point, and now I just lost it. I appreciate that I am also creative with my dress, my fashionista dressing, and I got a cool new pair of glasses yesterday. Can you
Ooh.
see? Let's see. Is that the side I want to show? Whatever. I love my Pradas, so I just got them done, and then I promptly almost lost them. Valentine's Day, I went to see a really good movie, One Love, Bob Marley.
So you recommended
Definitely.
it. It's on my list. Some of those
It's
biopics are great. Some are
so
terrible.
good.
This was a good one.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful, and it's approved by his son, which is, he comes and talks before the movie, and I had my glasses in my lap, and then stood up, and it fell to the ground. It didn't get stepped on. It stayed with the popcorn that I had dropped. I got halfway home, realized I didn't have it, turned around, went back, and they had almost closed up. And luckily, the guy went in and shot on the camera. I didn't even see camera, his flashlight. And I'm so grateful, so appreciative that I do have a good memory. I'm just out of storage.
Yeah.
All right, and if you just tuned in, I see more eyeballs rolling, and welcome to Take My Advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on my very special Thursday series, Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa, and
Your co-host, James Hawthorne.
ooh, I like that one. Yeah. All right, and let's do one last appreciation. What do you like about yourself, James?
I like that I finally learned to let road rage go. It took me probably like 10 years of driving in LA. And now it's almost like one day, it's like I just reached my lifetime quotient for getting frustrated or angry at people behind the wheel. Yesterday, on one short 20-minute drive, I feel like I was almost sideswiped, T-boned, ran. I mean, you should have painted a big bullseye on my car. And I didn't, my heart rate barely even skipped a beat. I was just like, oh, well, they're stupid. Okay, moving along. And I just feel like I fully channeled, Jack Nicholson's goose fra ba from that movie Anger Management, when he's trying to get Adam Sandler to just relax. I finally channeled that, and I feel like I am just in my own bubble of Zen now when I'm driving. It's just, oh, watch out, easy. And I just don't get mad anymore. It's like I just reached my lifetime limit for it. And so far,
So good.
been able to keep my cool for quite a while now. I drive like I mean it, but I don't drive mean anymore.
That's good. That's good. I have an experiment for you.
Okay.
And I was in a similar thing as you're talking about. It was getting worse. Like I actually have a parrot hanging with my road dog Petunia, my pink penguin. But I have someone gave me this talking parrot, and it says, if you press it, it goes, "Move over, Lord." And then another one says, "Polly wants an effing cracker," right? It's like it swears, this parrot. So when I just press, instead of using my finger, which one, or yelling, or I just press it. Now then I went to advanced, and this is what I want you to try this week. Every time you see a driver do something right, okay, every time you see a driver put his blinker on and move over the lane, or let you by, or moves out of the fast lane when you're going fast, I want you to notice them, right? And like, oh, that was so nice. I swear, James, as soon as I started doing that, I have polite drivers all around me. It is,
Yes.
it is, it is so weird how the law of attraction really works. It's not personal, right? Nobody's out to get me, but it feels that way when I keep noticing that. So just try it, Steve. I'm curious if I'm blowing smoke up my own
No,
assets.
you're not. You know, the other thing that happens when you do that is all of a sudden all these parking spaces open up for you right out front. You're looking for a parallel parking spot, and oh, they're pulling out right when and where you need them to. You just create all this good karma. I agree. And you
Yeah.
know, this goes back to the things we like about ourselves. Our default mode is inadequacy, and we're constantly being, like you said, oh, I didn't get this done today. Oh, I'm behind on this. What must they think of me? Why hasn't this person texted me back? I must be unlikable. You know, but when we actually do something good, we should take a moment to celebrate that. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're giving yourself a participation trophy for every good thing that you do. But if you just take a moment to go, yes, I did do that, you know, I think
Yep.
that those little things, the little victories, like I got my grocery shopping done in under half an hour and I managed to save 45% on my bill. Aren't I a savvy shopper? Just taking a moment to say that instead of, you know, oh, this
Exactly.
grocery shopping. Now I'm so behind on the next thing I have to do. It's a nice replacement.
Absolutely. You totally got my point 1000%.
One more
So
thing I have to
that's,
riff on with your parrot,
oh,
by the way,
okay.
your
Yeah.
cussing parrot, is
Yeah.
my dad used to sell all these stupid little knickknacks just for fun as a side shop, and he had this little goofy plastic switch that would stick on your dashboard, and it was called a death ray. And all you would do is just flip the switch, and it was a death ray whenever somebody would, you know, it didn't make any noise. It was just a
Oh my
plastic switch, and
gosh.
you, like James Bond, could just go boop. And then he had a little battery powered thing that you could put down like on the center console, and it had three settings: a death ray, woo, 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 woo. It had a machine gun, da, 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 and it had a grenade launcher. So you could hit the death ray, and then you could do sound effects below. And he sold them as a tandem pair to help people with their road rage. And I used to have this little death ray stuck on my on my dashboard, and
I
people would
want
get in their
one.
car, they'd go, "What the HE double hockey sticks is that?"
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
"You'll see."
Oh, well, I want one of those, and then I want to add an applause button so
Yes,
that when they
for
do
what, to your
something right,
point.
then we do the applause. Yes, and to riff on your parking, not only do I get perfect parking, like people are leaving, I get money left in the meter. How's that for, yeah, that's, and it's all because of my discipline of trying to get to the best feeling thought as quickly as possible. I
Yeah, no,
totally
it's
know
good karma.
that is why.
If I put money in my meter and I notice like the car behind me or in front of me is out, sometimes I'll throw $1 in there, just, you know, just
Ah,
because it's only a
I
buck, but it could save them $70, and for it could save them a ruined day. It cost me $1. So happy to, that's a fair, good trade in my book.
wow, man, you just up one on me. Let's I might just do that. I do want to carry bottled water in my car for people who I do see that are homeless. That's my new thing. I learned that from Jeffrey, who's Doors of Change founder. But anyways, we're off topic, and I haven't even given us the applause for finishing breakfast. Thank you for joining us for breakfast and taking a bite out of my gratitude sandwich. I promise, if you do this for 28 consecutive days, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way, and you'll be smiling more. You might even have better relationships, which leads to better sex, which leads to um, uh, not necessarily babies, but I didn't know how to follow that one up. But anyways, thank you for joining us. All right, that was a little goofy. What is the topic for today, James Hawthorne, on Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa?
Yeah, gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. There's a country song. I don't exactly remember how it goes or who did it, but that's what we're talking about today. It's the art of entering the breakup. Last time we talked about exiting, dealing with the breakup and exiting it. Today, we're talking about when one may or may not be on the horizon and how we approach that.
Yes, well said. And we got another finger. So there's somebody in back there listening, not identifying, but we're good as long as you give us the finger up and not down.
I do want to revel in the irony
Nothing.
of the timing of today's topic. Nothing says Valentine's Day like breaking it off. I just want to revel in the irony of our timing today. I love irony. I find it quite humorous. So here we are.
You can break up after how many couples break up on Valentine's Day? Oh, it's a topic. So
That's a great Google search.
thank you. I'll bring it up here for you because I just love doing
As you look that up, I have to say, I mean, if you've done that or you're doing that, I think that is pretty cold-blooded. I mean, yes, I am going to judge a little bit. If you've ever broken up with somebody on Valentine's Day, man, it must be going bad because that is cold-blooded.
So 1 in 14 U.S. adults had broken up with somebody on Valentine's. So that's 7% of people, and 6% saying they had broken up just before, and another 6% breaking up just after. So that's like
26%, almost a quarter of people breaking up on or around Valentine's Day. That shocks me.
Yeah, but isn't that something?
The only way I can make sense of it is maybe people just can't stand the hypocrisy of they think if I have to have one more dinner with this person and look across the table and pretend that I'm still okay with them and love them, I'm going to scream. So maybe it's just they can't stand the hypocrisy of these feelings of ill content any longer. That's the only way I can make sense of it, because initially I'm sitting here going, man, that seems cold to break up on or around Valentine's Day. It's like when a company fires you at Christmas,
Oh yeah. Well, I have heard one woman, actually more than that. They were girls. They were younger, more like girls. I don't want to break up until I see what I get for Valentine's, or I didn't get what I wanted for Valentine's. So it definitely is for me. It's kind of like my birthday, where you almost set yourself up for failure because you have all these unconscious or unspoken expectations of how people show their love to you. And so if you have that expectation and it's unmet, then the whole relationship gets thrown out. So anyways, that might be also another reason. But let's go directly, put the moose on the table. What in your opinion constitutes a justified breakup?
I mean, beyond the obvious of if there's infidelity, or even more extreme, in my opinion, worse than infidelity is lying about infidelity. If somebody is unfaithful to me, depending on how we handle it, there's a chance. If somebody lies about the infidelity, then that's like a double violation of trust. And the lying to me is even worse because it means that there's a communication incompatibility, and that's to me is a non-negotiable. That's a big one. If somebody is repeatedly just showing a lack of interest or effort in spending time together, and I'm a very independent person. I mean, if I'm seeing somebody that I'm dating like twice a week, I'm thrilled. If they live nearby, if they're within an hour away, that's more than enough. It's not like we have to do everything together, but if there's a constant and long going feeling that I'm the only one making the effort, that's not necessarily a breakup for me, but it's a discussion. So I think one layer of our topic, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, is when do you decide that you want to work on something with that person versus when do you just rip it right off and throw the baby out with the bathwater? And my inclination is that people are very quick to rush to the breakup when, through good communication, there might be behaviors and things that can be improved and worked upon. It's like they say that you're stuck with your family, right? So you can choose to just always be at each other's throats, or you can work through the things that bother you or irritate you or disappoint you about it, because you're stuck with them anyway. So what if we took that approach to, you know, romantic relationships, where even though we're not stuck with them like their family, what if we acted just a little bit as if we were, and we tried, you know, to use our more evolved skills of problem solving, communication, listening, empathy, to work through
What?
the things that aren't working out.
You didn't get that. You said listening, and I said what?
I'm sorry, what you were blathering on for a good 8 minutes there. I checked out at family.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the answer is always balance, right? When you don't work at it at all and split at the first sign of trouble or first sign of not what I have a pregnancy model of relationships. That first 3 months is, you know, the glow and I'll love you forever. And I feel like I've known you all my life. And I just feel like, you know, we've been together before and all of that BS, shiitake, and which you think you really mean. And so you make promises during that stage, right, that you can't keep. And then the second trimester is when, you know, you turn the fruit to the bad side. You know, when you're selling fruit, you want the good side up, right? Then the bad side comes out and you're like, oh, whoa, what is this? You misrepresented yourself, and I deserve better than this. And where did you go? The one that I liked in the first 3 months. So that is too quick, I think, you know, to break up right after the 3 months. Although, you know, the name of my show is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. But most of my dates, you know, if they go anywhere, and I am dating again, and you know that, and it's a perfect topic too, I usually don't stay past that. So that's me, that I'm not looking at it as something to work for. However, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. My date on Friday, I'm going on a date on Friday, and it's my first date with a third guy, right? Since I decided to start dating. And he sent me, which I thought was, we've had one conversation on the phone, and he's like, wow, you know, I can tell you're a great communicator and you're very accomplished. I bet you've had some challenges meeting someone who can relate to you without fighting for attention or putting you on a pedestal that you can't get off of. You didn't say exactly those words. I like those words. I say that. But that describes it. And I said, absolutely. So he sent me this clip from this guy who just spoke at the Opera House. Irony, I was just there. And he talks about the problems we have with relationships because of how we were trained in the era of romanticism. So romanticism has that spark, doesn't talk about laundry or doing all the mundane things that couples do. It has the you should know what's on my mind, right? We don't have to speak so much and tell people what we need. We just let, you know, they should know. And if they don't know, they're not the one. And I
think that's a bunch of BS.
And so I was like, wow. I mean, I'm going into the date also now with love is not a feeling. Love is an action. So if you want to get to know if there's love there, you have control over that with how you approach the meeting. So instead of are you the one or are you the soulmate, which I've always chafed against. How can there just be only one soulmate in
right.
8 billion people, right? But instead of that, it's like, if you can say, look, I'm nuts. I'm 88% great, but I've got 12%. I'm crazy. And here, let me show you my crazy first. and you show me you're crazy. And if we can work to maneuver around and love around the craziness, then we have a great relationship. And that just blew my mind, because that's completely different to the kinds of, oh, there's got to be that spark, there's got to be a flutter down there, and if there's not a flutter down there, then it's not the one, or it's not someone to have a relationship. And they should know, right? If they love me, they should know, right? That thing that you react against. So I'm so excited now, much more excited for the date on Friday than I was, when it first happened, because this is a totally different model with which to get to know somebody.
Yes, I want to piggyback on those three things you said. One is those first 3 months when you're in the honeymoon phase. I would say at that point, love is a feeling and you're flying high, right? And if there's not that feeling, then maybe you fold them before you get into that second, dimension where the rubber meets the road, because you don't want to invest and put all of this hard work and commitment. I've always, one reason why I think I've remained single more often than in relationship is because I look at a relationship as somewhat of a commitment, and I'm going to work, towards making things work with somebody that I really like. Meaning that I'm not going to force anything, but what I mean is I'm going to change my priorities a bit. I'm going to be thinking about fun things we can do together, and carve out that space, time, and also emotional and mental space for that. But if there isn't that first feeling of flying high during the honeymoon phase, it's maybe time to fold them and keep on dating, because as you said, there's 8 billion people. Then on the flip side of that, you talked about you're kind of crazy. And for the longest time, I've had this theory that we're all messed up, okay? We all have issues, baggage, past traumas. And, the idea is to find someone that's your kind of messed up, meaning that you're messed up doesn't make their messed up any worse. And vice versa. And you two can be messed up together, but all the positives elevate both of you so that together, both of your lives are better together than they would be apart. And that's also, God, I'm kind of jumping to the end before we'll go back to the meat of the discussion. But for me, I think my wrap up point today in 23 minutes is going to come to this. When it comes to hold 'em or fold 'em, being with that person has to elevate your life experience. It has to make everything just a little bit sweeter. And if having that partner is bringing everything down, even your state of happiness and peace when you're not with them, it ain't working. And, that to me is the ultimate litmus test and the ultimate criteria. I have a dog, and my dog makes everything in my life a little bit better. And I kind of think this might be a little simplistic, but I'm stuck with my dog. I love him like he's mine. My partner has to do the same thing, make my life a little bit better, on the whole. Even if there's frustrations or aggravations, on the whole, I have to be a happier person that I'm in a intimate romantic relationship with them. So I would say that's my ultimate hold 'em fold 'em criterion. And then one thing you others said about is quitting. You see people that have worked at it, this age of romanticism. When you look at older couples that have been together for 30, 40 years, oh, I'm sure there are days when they can't stand each other. And there have been times when they're at each other's throats. But you said love is a practice. And, working through those difficulties, those rough patches, when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, that's what creates that strong foundation of trust, love, intimacy. And if you never work through anything, how could you ever expect to be in a long-term relationship? And when you look at that person, it's not that they're lucky and that they found their soulmate. It's that both parties, I think, were willing to work on things throughout all those years to get there. And I think the beautiful thing about it is the more that you work through those rough patches, the more beautiful of a thing you have and you've created. And if you're not willing to work through those things, you'll never enjoy the depth, the layers, the intricacies that a 30-year relationship, right, could provide. You'll never experience the richness and the love if you're not willing to do the practice. And that practice isn't always pretty. It's dressed in overalls, is stinky, and looks like hard work.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something else. And looks like underwear. I know, dirty underwear. I thought that's where you were going, but you didn't.
The first 3 months is kinky underwear time. The rest of the time, it's doing your partner's dirty underwear, dirty laundry, working through that dirty laundry.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's a little bit of, fabric softener in there somewhere. But yeah, my bonus mom and dad, talking about family, you can have family family of choice or whatever. They've been married 72 years.
Wow.
He's 94, she's 91. And to this day, he'll say, look at mama. Doesn't she look beautiful today? It's just like my boy. Or just stuff like that. They even when she's in the hospital, she's out of the hospital. Thank you for the prayers. She's in a rehab right now. But when they're apart, they say prayers together before bed every single day. Is that like not the sweetest thing ever? And he's really funny. I'll say, Dad, what's the secret to, at the time I think I was interviewing for a 70-year marriage. And he says, we didn't want divorce at the same time, which is like funny, right? But the truth is they're like teenagers, that first whatever. And he'll tell the story of when he came back from the Korean War and when she came to see him because he had been hurt in the war and came to the hospital bed, he said, that was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Again, he'll tell that story even today. So that definitely supports the whole, it's an action, it's a discipline, it's a choice to have a good relationship. To love is not what we think it is, that to complete you, you're incomplete unless you have that twin flame or the soulmate or whatever that is. And I'm just so excited now that, I'm not going back to dating the same way. I'm not going back to dating in a relationship in the same way. And it's really interesting. I knew that because my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, he had prophesied me, finding a mate this year, right? And I'm like, nah, it hasn't come true. He said July. I'm like, yeah, it hasn't come true. But now because I said that's going to take a long time. But I think with all the receptivity I've had around learning, it's coming from all these different places, all of these ideas and models and learning about what a real relationship, because I've never had a real loving relationship. And I used to say that as in, oh, poor me, right? I had a husband, all that sort of, and the dates, not positive. I don't even think I have one positive relationship story at all. And now I'm seeing my part in that. I fell right into the romanticism model of relationships. And until I do the shifting, I'm going to be disappointed. That clip that I showed, I don't know how the music got on there, but I reposted it this morning. I was interviewed in San Diego by KUSI near Valentine's a few years back. And they asked me, do relationships have to be that hard? And I'm like, no, if it's this hard this early, then, you're done, right?
This early is the key thing you just said. There has to be that honeymoon phase. If there's not, it doesn't make sense to do all the hard work and the practice of love if you don't have the feelings of love at the outset. So as you said, there is a balance and there's a proper sequence of things. Hi, Orville. How are you?
PJ is in the house streaming from Spain. You want to weigh in on when to hold the na 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 na. music side. You had the word side.
Yeah, thank
Know
you.
when to hold them and know when to fold them.
I'm going to
Let's
work that
see.
into my karaoke repertoire the next time I go
There
out.
you go. Well, it's good to catch you live in the Cashew Gallery as well, PJ. If you just tuned in wondering what's going on, let's take my advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show with our very special Thursday series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Your freshly shaven co-host, James Hawthorne. I was sporting a beard, the longest beard I'd had in quite some time, and it was finally time to leave the grizzly mountain man up in the mountains and come back to the LA basin.
And I
Butt
love
chin.
that. The butt chin, man. I just love that so much. Too bad you're gay. Anyways,
Why settle for one butt when you can have two?
Funny. So the topic is, how do you know when it's time to break up? When to hold, when to fold, and that's what we've been talking about. And we're talking about balance, right? If you're really up, the ratio that I use is if you are happy with your partner, the way you're talking, James, where you are enhanced, right, in your happiness, 80% of the time, then I would stay in that relationship. That's my formula. If the stuff that bothers you is 20% of the time, that's good because nobody's perfect. And you also have 20% of the time when you are not at your best. But 80% of the time, you bring out the best in them, they bring out the best in you. If it's less than that, and usually what happens is this thing where they don't make the move to the middle, they make this much effort, and you have to go and make up for all that they're not doing. That is not a good relationship because that's called codependency. You're trying to make them happy because they won't move towards you, and then you complain about it. So here's the deal. If you spend 80% of your time complaining about the partner, even though you say they're only 20% this, you're let them go.
Yeah.
They don't deserve to have someone constantly criticizing them 80% of the time. That's not okay. It's not because you deserve something better. They deserve something better.
There's 2 points I want to make to that. I agree completely. However, I want to say that we've approached this topic today within the parameters of dating. Now, if you put this conversation within the parameters of marriage, there's other considerations, right, that come into play. Because when you think about what happens when people get married, there's this whole ceremony. You have exchanged these vows in front of hundreds or dozens of your closest family and friends. And I feel like there's this added pressure, right, to make it work. And there's this whole institution around it. You've probably got a home together. You have all these great tax benefits you've been enjoying together. You have all of these mutual friends and everything. Your whole lives are intertwined. There might even be children together. And yet, right, over half of marriages end in divorce. And, you know, I like your rule that 80% of the time, and I think I like it because it works within the parameters of marriage, even with all these other considerations that exist there that don't exist when you're just dating and just looking for a life enhancement, which is what I think, if you're not married, what a relationship should be, right? If you do your gratitude and self-love work every day and you've got this great tasting cake, they're this really lovely icing or accoutrement to an already great life. But with marriage, it's real. It's more intense. And, you know, deciding when to hold them, when to fold them can be clouded, I think, in marriage by all these other things. And I'm going to use my parents, for example. These are two people that spent 25 years together. And in my humble opinion, they never should have been married. They weren't right for each other. I'm glad they did because I'm here. And they were great parents to me individually, but they were never right for one another. And they tried, I think, too hard to make it work at the detriment of their own happiness for a long time. I tell both of them, I got to finally meet them about 5 years post-divorce, once they got through all of that crapola that goes with a divorce and 25 years of marriage. I'm like, Mom, so nice to meet the real you. Dad, samesies. Um,
Mm.
and they, in the post-mortem discussion, if you will, with both of them, it became so clear to me that these were two type A achievement-minded individuals. My dad already had had a failed marriage. He didn't want to quit or fail. So this notion, I think, the thing I want to take away from that is, yes, they tried to work on it. I think one worked harder than the other, and one kind of just withdrew. But at the same token, if it's really not working and it's not vibing, I think you have to recognize that, even when there's 25 years of marriage. And I think maybe they stayed married, 15 years too long.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you really get down to it. And
Yeah.
that, yes, love is a practice, and we look at these relationships with couples that have been together for 40, 50 years, and it's beautiful. But don't make yourself suffer, for
Mhm.
longer than you need to. If you've made a mistake, even if it's after a marriage and a ceremony in front of hundreds of your closest family and friends, sometimes you have to go, oh boy, it's time for a major reconstruction of my life.
Mhm.
So I'll add that
Mhm.
and say that.
Yeah, yeah. I take a little different frame on that. I don't believe that any marriage is a failure. I don't believe that there's a mistake when there's a divorce. I believe in chapters in a book of romance. And that chapter that you had with whoever it was helped you learn what you need or want more of and what you need or want less of. And they were your teacher in the discovery of that. And when I see it with that frame, I'm less likely to blame the person in the relationship that they were responsible for that. So even in the extreme of cheating, even in the extreme of lying, it takes two to contribute to something that was the coping device. I'm not saying that I could never get over. I couldn't. I mean, I'm glad that my husband finally cheated on me because it gave me what I needed to get out of that relationship because I tried to leave 6 times and
I
I
was going to
just
ask you what
couldn't
the
do it.
last straw was, because you've
Yeah,
talked about a
that
lot
was
of
the last
character
straw.
traits about him and the way he treated you that I thought was terrible. So what I was going to ask you is, what were when you decided to hold him, what actions
Mhm.
did you take to try to work through those things or communicate that with him? And then what was ultimately the last straw? So now I understand, after all those other things that he was doing that I think were of bad character on his part. That's just not what you do when you are supposed to love somebody in a loving relationship with them. You know, I get the last straw now. What, if you don't mind taking a minute,
No,
what did it look like when you tried to work through some of those things that kept you around when you did decide to hold them? What did that process between the two of you look like?
so I filed, and then he, after like we barely started the process, he said, "I don't want to get a divorce. If you still want to, yes, but I think we should go to therapy," which was kind of funny because we'd already been to separate therapists, but I tried to get him to go to a therapist with me, but he wouldn't do it. But after I filed the first time, he found that motivation. So we went to the therapist, and great guy, Todd Krieger. He's been on my show multiple times, and he's the one that talks about staying even after cheating. So if you want to hear all of that, but he worked with us and said basically to my husband, um, if you want to stay married to her, you're going to have to um, be intimate with her. I'm going to say it nicely. He didn't. He said it very moose on the table. You're going to have to hockey puck her, and you're going to have to do it at least once a week. Can you imagine, being told that that's what you have to do uh, um, uh, at least once a week? And if you don't, she might still even stay for a year, maybe 5, but she's not going to stay forever because I had gotten healthy enough to understand that I was in that relationship because it reminded me of what I was familiar with growing up, not feeling good enough, not feeling attractive. That's why I stayed, right? With the constant hope that if I could make him love me, it would be okay that my mom didn't love me. right? So that's a very common thing for people who have childhood trauma. So once I began to work on myself and get healthy enough, then I knew I didn't have to stay there, but let's work on it and see if it'll work. So we did that, tried to make it work, and I think we're getting the time signal already because yeah, the 5. Because I really I did, and I gave him like the 30-day, I know you have this relationship with this woman. You have 30 days to prove to me that me and your family are the most important thing. And the 30th day, he was getting picked up by her to go to a joint, another preschool mom, to go to an outing. And I said, well, you just chose. And so at that point is when I knew, I really have, I tell this to couples all the time. When you have kids, yes, divorce is not an easy solution, but I ask everyone to look in the mirror and say, have I done everything possible
Yes.
to be able to stay in this relationship? If I have, and it still is heartbreaking, and it still is just, I was, as you said, not treated well. And when I came to that point was, okay, that was the last straw. And it wasn't, again, I don't blame him. Well, a little bit, but I don't blame him mostly because he was damaged. I was damaged. Damage attracted damage. We have 2 beautiful daughters, no regrets. And, God bless him. But I that's why I say that was a chapter in my book of romance. I learned so much about myself, primarily that I am good, that I am worthy, that I'm not ugly, that I'm not fat. I can't believe I just said that out loud. I'm working on that right now.
I would like to say that I think that looking yourself in the mirror, because we talked about the parameters, hold them and fold them within the parameters of marriage and all of the joyful baggage of children and everything else. I want to call back to those people that aren't in a marriage and that are dating. And you talked about that 80% rule, that stuff. If you are not happy 80% of the time, I think a lot of times, this is a piece of advice that I'm going to give because I've been guilty of not doing this in the past and I had to catch myself on it. We can be upset with that person and play it over and over in our heads, and we can imagine these conversations we've had with them to try and work it out. But you have to look yourself in the mirror and ask, have I actually communicated with my partner and said, hey, I need to talk to you about something? Sometimes we think we have, and instead we've just ruminated on it, and it's making us miserable. And it's not that we're not happy 80% of the time. It's that 20% keeps playing over and over, and we haven't found the courage or the right time to sit down and say, I need to talk to you about something. So that's my only caveat to, have I done everything I can? It's have you communicated that with your partner and given them a chance to meet you and work through the pieces that aren't working. And when you do that, you might find that all of a sudden that 40% you're not happy with is down to 10%. And that's kind of a cool little magic trick. Separate what the strife is in your own personhood versus that which you actually have communicated with and put out on the table.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And that is your final word, because we're at the end of the show. My final word is, that 80%. Are you 80% happy? And if you're just harping on the 20%, is it an INTBOAD? It's not that big of a deal. It just makes him, his quirkiness, whatever that is it that big of a deal? If it's that big of a deal and you can't let it go, then hasta la vista, baby.
Good final word.
It's all about balance, folks. Peace in, peace out. World peace through, inner peace. Thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
co-host James Hawthorne.
Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future.